It looked like an early morning traffic jam at the offices of the Original Parts Group, but it was merely the arrival of several hundred classic cars. A wide variety of vehicles came to show their stuff at an event that has become a Southern California tradition. There's some incredible automotive eye candy here, and we'll be taking a taste today on Dream Ride. Welcome to Dream Rides. The parking lot here at the OPGI headquarters has filled with some gorgeous classic and restored streetcars, covering a wide variety of models from Detroit's major manufacturers. Let's kick things off with one of our favorites.
This is a Pontiac Bonneville, a 59. It's a very rare car. They didn't make a lot of them. I've had it for a long time, and I've never even seen another one on the road or at a car show. And what's really unique about this car is it's all original. The paint, the interior, everything's original. It has just over 12,000 original miles on the car. I got it from a guy that I worked for a long time. He actually gave it to me as a gift. It was bought in Culver City as a wedding present for a guy's wife, and she didn't like it. She thought it was too big. So they stuck the car in the garage and basically stayed there. He bought it in 1987. For $2,500. He kept it up until about 2 years ago when he told me he wanted to sell it, and I told him I wanted to buy it, and then he just called me back and he said, you know what, we're going to give you the car. We just want to see it go to a good home. And I'd never even seen the car, had no idea what it looked like. So I went up to his house in Big Bear and opened the garage, and when the garage opened, this thing was sitting there. And I just couldn't believe it because it's just a beautiful car. The car came with the original tires from 1959. The guy took them off when he bought it in 87. He put them in bubble wrap and put them in his attic. And when I got the car from him a little while ago, he said, oh, by the way, there's some tires in the attic goes with the car. They're the original, 5 original tires all holding air from when the car was new. They were taken off when the car had 9,000 miles on it in 1987. You probably will not find something like this. There's probably a handful of them available if you can find something with that miles and this model and the color scheme too. Some of the colors that came on these were so-so colors, but it's got beautiful colors. It's got the tri-tone interior, just a lot of things that make it really attractive. It has the all the stuff that came original, the sparkle carpet with the little pieces, they sparkle in the sun when the sun hits the carpet. The headliner has the stars that at night when you're driving and other lights hit the stars twinkle above your head. Everything works, power windows, power brakes, power steering, cigarette lighter, heater, everything works flawlessly on the car. The car was actually driven once or twice a year just to be driven. It never really just sat. So it was mechanically used, so everything works fine still. You couldn't probably find a car like this condition. You could look and look, but it's just a really rare car.
This is a 67 Pontiac GTO. I picked it up in 1995 as just a basket case rolling shelf and built it into what you see here today. A lot of blood, sweat, tears, and a few words that you probably can't say. So it's been a labor of love, and something that I grew up with, building Pontiacs and Buicks and things with my dad. And there was no motor, there was no interior, the shell was stripped down, the hood was missing, no bumper. What there was car in a box and a rolling chassis. Pick up Original Parts Group catalog and you start going through, I need this, and I need the interior pieces and trim pieces and bumper pieces, and oh yeah, there's those grill things that I probably need, and you just kind of start putting it together and then go to shows and see what other people have done and piece your things together to figure out what you want to do and how you want to build it. I believe the original translation for GTO is Gran Turismo Ammolato, or my Italian's not all that great, but something along that line. Personally, I call it gas, tires, and oil. That's the 3 things that you feed this monster, is a lot of gas, a lot of tires, and a lot of oil. When I picked it up in 95, I just started collecting my pieces. It was painted New Year's Eve of 1998. Then it was assembled through that year of 99, and it made its first time on the roads in, I think it was about May of 99. So about a 4-year process. then it's never finished. There's always something more you can do, and one more piece you can add or change. So it's never done, but it's always fun. This gets, probably about 25% of what I do for each one of the shows. Between this and the Firebird, they're the main ones. But I've driven this thing. I'm originally an Oregon boy, and this thing has been all the way from Portland, Oregon, driven all the way down here to LA. And actually back in, I think it was 06 or 07, it was called up for audition for the Fast and Furious 4. I live up by Yosemite and drove it all the way down to Hollywood. Been to Hot August Night several times, so it kind of gets driven a little bit. It's still fun to get it out and take it out though. What classic car is not complete without a set of fuzzy dice? Believe it or not, I found those on the side of the road. I was driving by and I seen red fuzzy dice that'll match the GTO, so I stopped, turned around, went back, picked them up. They've been there for about 10 years now. I guess that part was free.
If you like that pair of Pontiacs, you'll really enjoy a bevy of Buicks when Dream Rides presented by Steel Rubber returns. This edition of Dream Rides presented by Steel Rubber Products is being brought to you by ARP, the world leader in fastener technology. Original Parts Group, the world's largest source for GMA body parts and accessories. And by Steel Rubber, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping. Welcome back to Dream Rides and our visit to the OPGI Car Show. There's a lot to take in at this event, and our next set of cars are prime examples of the Buick brand.
This is a 1965 Buick Riviera. Always been my dream car since I was a kid. I had a project car I was working on before, and it was just way too much deterioration. So I ended up selling it, and I found this one on Craigslist. Ended up picking it up for a decent price. It was ready for paint, didn't need any sheet metal work or nothing. It was pretty decent. Engine was running right, the whole drivetrain was good, and pretty much went through the whole car and painted some stuff here and there, chromed some pieces here and there. It's pretty much all up in the air. Pretty much give the painter an idea of what you want, something subtle or something crazy, and he goes off of that, and you pretty much show up and it's done. Loved the interior pattern. It was a cloth. Took it all out, went with the original pattern, did leather interior and a suede headliner. A lot of time and money, that's what it's all about, time and money. And of course the support of the wife and the kids, and that's all. Once you have all that, you can pretty much put a car together, in a year and a half. The lowrider community says, oh, it's subtle, it's a nice little car, and everybody that's from the era of the 60s, who grew up in that era, they go crazy. They're like, oh my God, I haven't seen those cars around in a long time, or out in the street really. You don't really see Rivieras in the early first generation Rivieras out in the street, or even at the lowrider community like I am involved in. It's rare that you find one in there.
It's a 1965 Buick Riviera. It was like a luxury sport coupe, I believe, kind of like a businessman's car. No matter where I drive it, I always get a good reaction from people on the street. Hey, my dad used to have that car, that's a beautiful car, stuff like that. I did about 90% of it, what you see now. I didn't paint it, but I did bodywork on it. House of colors, candy apple red. Custom 17x6-inch wheel, just dropped down a little bit. Converted to disc brakes in the front. A little bit of chrome tailpipe on the back to make it look a little bit lower, because a Buick Riviera needs to be low as far as the interior is concerned. This one, I believe, had all the options that you could get in 1965. Power seat, power windows, power trunk. The consoles, hard to find, hard to ship if you find one. They're not real sturdy. Needs a little bit more work. You use a new dash pad, but other than that, it's mostly done. Engine's all stock, Buick 401 nailhead. It's not a Grand Sport, so it doesn't have the larger engine. There's still parts available. They're a little more expensive. Like, for instance, this cathedral molding here, that's a one-year only front end on the 65. The cathedral molding is very hard to find. I was missing one when I got the car. It was about a $400 part, used. It's a driver. I drive it everywhere. Drove down to San Diego last weekend. I kind of like having a car that's not real common. When you go to a show like this is probably the higher concentration of Buick Rivieras that you're going to see. If I pull up into a local car show, I'm usually the only Buick Riviera out there, so I kind of like that.
Time now for one of Buick's less sporty models, the Skylark, to step forward.
So this is a 1964 Buick Skylark. I have had this car since 2010. This was handed off to me from my brother who passed away in 2011. So I took over and started building this on my own. It took about 9 months to paint my car. They actually tore everything off. They took the fenders off the hoods. They ripped out the windows, tore down the doors, took off the trunk lid. Also, I had some corrosion that was in the back of the trunk. They replaced with a new floor pan that I purchased from OPGI. The painter told me it was going to take 2 months, but it ended up coming out to 9 months. We know how that goes with paint. So it took about a good 9 months. That was the longest project of the car, was actually getting it painted. Finding parts for it was kind of intimidating because there's not that much availability for these cars. I actually want to tub the rear end. I want to tub the rear end and put a 9-inch in it, and I want to put an LS6 in it, rip out this motor and put a new up-to-date motor with fuel injection so I could just gain some more horsepower out of it. Well, this is a daily driver. I drove this car from my house, which I live in San Fernando, all the way to San Diego and back. So it's pretty reliable. It hasn't broke down on me once. It's been good to me so far. It's not something your grandma will be driving every day. So it gets up and goes. I recently just geared the rear end also on it, which there's 373 gears in the rear end. So it picks up. It's a pretty good pickup car and stuff. Everything seems like it's tuned and dialed in correctly. It runs. I'll give a run for your money right here.
The car is a 1971 Buick Grand Sport. I bought it back in '99. 2010, I decided to do a body off restoration, look stock, be a driver with some mods in it. Oh, I've been around Buick Grand Sport since the early 70s. Come back to Vietnam in '67 and bought my first one. And I've had Buicks ever since. There's 12 more at home. I just like the body styles and the engines. Pretty easy to work on. Almost nobody makes body parts for them. What few there are, they don't last very long. They get sold and nobody remakes them after that. And the junkyards are drying up. Keep open, keep going to the junkyards and see what you can find. Other club members, other Buick owners, and talk to them. That's what you have to do. Who knows who has what, wherever you go. I've redone some of it, but it's pretty well done, pretty much the way I want it. Everywhere I go. I've never seen one of those. I've only seen them in magazines. Everywhere I go. If you see it at the show, I drove it. I've been to Reno, Hot August Nights twice. Been to San Diego 3 times. I drive it. No trailer queen. I built it look stock, be modified, and be a driver.
We'll be right back with plenty more classics for you to enjoy here on Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber. Welcome back to Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber Products. As we continue our tour of the OPGI car show, we now turn our attention to Chevrolets and some beautiful bow ties.
It's a 1965 Chevelle. I was looking for a car that had never been in an accident, had no rust, and the original owner, which is like almost impossible to get. A friend of mine, Don Swanson, had a car just like that. After me looking for a year, he called me and offered me this car. When I received it, it was a frame and a body, and that was it. That's where I started from. I wanted to build it from the ground up the way I wanted it specifically. I already had some other 65 Chevelles. I didn't want to start with something that someone else had already did a lot of work on. So I would say it's tough, but if you want it the way you want it specifically, then you have to get it from the frame up. I had the hood made. It has a cowl hood and it's steel. You cannot buy a 65 Chevelle steel hood. I looked at all the different people that do interior, Gabe and Don Mangus and all those kind of people, the best out here in Southern California. And I decided on Eddie because Eddie doesn't use any press board, he doesn't use any wood. He has his own sheet metal shop along with his interior shop right together. and he and I collaborated on a lot of different things. I have a lot of custom one-of-a-kind things on the interior itself. And my wife picked out the color. That's why it looks so good. So that was her input to the build of the car.
This is a 1940 Chevy Deluxe sedan. I bought the body. It didn't have anything. And they also put this paint job that I had mixed up 6 different colors, a pearl, lime green, and then we also put a diamond dust off in it to make it sparkle like that. And everything on here, I had it built on there. I had the wires put off in there, I had the radiator built for it, electric windows. I bought all the windows, all the parts on it. It didn't come with nothing but the shell. And it took 3.5 years. And at the end of this year, I have it for 4 years. Every time I bring it out, people want to look at it. When I go to the gas station, they want to take a picture by it. And I brings it out just and get attention. I like it, you know, people like it, and they love the color of it. Window right here, I had chrome. Most people paint them. I didn't want it painted. I wanted chrome to bring the car out a little bit more. And so I went that way. And I also have the chrome to go in the middle, but I didn't want that. I want that hot rod look. So I also have air shocks in the back, and I got it on like a little rake because that's the way I wanted to look, hot rod look. We also put the new lights off in there, the LD lights off in there. They just had came out, the new cars, and I had mine in there first because when I put them on, people hadn't seen them in an old car like this before, and I was kind of the first one that had that.
Let's stay with GM, but go luxury.
The car is a 1949 Cadillac sedanette, or Club Coupe as the factory called it. Found it originally on eBay. It was a totally original car. Took the fenders and everything off the front end to rebuild. After I tore it down, I decided the Cadillac motor that was in it was too far gone and decided I'll replace it with a 350 Chevrolet crate motor. And it has a 200R overdrive late model GM transmission in it, air conditioning, rack and pinion steering, disc brakes, fairly comfortable to drive for an old car. I pretty much took everything off the car and painted it or plated it or re-engineered some of the parts on it to my taste. It's early 2000 Mitsubishi Eclipse Patriot Red. It's translucent. It's got 2 different colors of red pearl in it that makes it a maroon color in the sun. It's about $805 a gallon. It has about 2 gallons of paint and 4 gallons of clear on it. A friend of mine squirted it and I color sanded and compounded, buffed it. Spent a lot of time shining it up. Did every panel on it about 4 times because I was afraid I'd sand through the paint and ruin it. The whole car I have 5 years of pretty much a couple hours every day. The interior is a leather interior that I had made to match the color of paint, and I ordered it from Germany. It originally comes in a BMW. Took a few months to get it. I go to a lot of car shows and see things that I like on different cars and try to put it together in my mind how I'd like them to go together in something I would build. I'm not going to do this again. That was way too much work, but never say never, but I don't plan on doing anything more.
Some of the sweetest vehicles here today were good lookers and hard workers. We'll talk El Caminos when Dream Rides presented by Steel Rubber returns. This edition of Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber Products, is being brought to you by Custom Auto Sound, the originator of classic car OEM fit radios since 1977. Original Parts Group, the world's largest source for GMA body parts and accessories. And by Steel Rubber, quality crafted rubber parts and leather stripping.